Hey guys, it's the OC with Boss Cowboy Sports, where your voice matters. In today's video, I want to talk about the top 3 possible free agents that could be cap casualties for the Cowboys. But should they? Let's go. All right, guys, so my top 3 free agents that are probable cap casualties for the Cowboys are going to be Blake Jarwin, Tank Lawrence, or DeMarcus Lawrence, and Amari Cooper. But the question is, should they be cap casualties? Before we get into the content, don't forget to hit the like button and also turn on your bell notification icons across all of our platforms so you can get the latest and greatest in Cowboy sports and news. So, let's get into it. Blake Jarwin. Since Blake Jarwin has gotten his new contract, unfortunately, he's been hurt. And because he's been hurt, he hasn't had the opportunity to be reliable on the football field. So, in his event, I feel that the Cowboys could get a tremendous amount of value based upon the videos and all the research that my comrade Boss Cowboy put together. And you guys can go watch that video, it's in the channel. But we begin to break down some of the tight end options via free agency that we could potentially acquire. And we got into how deep the draft is from the tight end position. So with all that being said, I think that based upon what the Cowboys could save when it comes to Blake Jarwin, which is $4.5 million off of the salary cap, I think it's time to go. We definitely can let go Blake Jarwin because with his cap number, we're going to be able to sign an upgraded and we have several options. OJ Mayo is one of them, and also several other free agents from various teams across the NFL. And also, we could also pick up, a number of draft picks. Not that we would, but at least a draft pick at the tight end position that could come in and do what he's been used to do. And I'll also go on record and say the same thing with Blake Schultz. He's played well, but however, the number that he's going to demand because of his amount of targets, which I'm going to talk about a lot more later, and what he's produced on the field, I think it's a little bit too rich for the Cowboys. So I think the Cowboys will probably potentially move off of Blake Jarwin because of the cap savings and who we could get for less money to replace him. Number 2, and these get harder as we go, is Tank Lawrence. Tank Lawrence, since the $100 million contract, has had injuries. And he hasn't been on the field for full seasons since the time of the new contract, which is a very healthy contract. He is, in my opinion, one of the top leaders on the team in terms of being emotional as a leader and being just a leader in general. When he's on the field, he's played fantastic. He does so many things well, not just rushing the passer, which I think he's still top end when he's healthy, but he's very disruptive, extremely disruptive on the run game. And you can't block him one-on-one at all. He beats tackles, he beats guards equally. He creates so much havoc and just a chaos, as I would call it, inside. So, do you let go of Tank Lawrence? That's a tough one. That's a really tough one because in real estate, what you do when you're looking at homes is you have a comparative analysis, right? You compare this home to that home and what you can get, from either one of them. And if you look at a comparative analysis, and I won't go into the draft, but just looking just in general at the free agents that are out there, the only guy that has enough youth that could be a potential fit is Ogba, which is the defensive end. He's a young guy. He's about 27 years old. He's come off of a 6.5 sack season for Miami, I believe. And, he's a young guy. He has some upside. But pound for pound, run game, pass game, I don't think it's a comparable guy. Maybe Chandler Jones, but Chandler Jones is 32. He's getting up there in terms of being a defensive end, and he could slide soon. So as a long-term solution, I don't like that ideal, even though he is a free agent and he played great versus us. So I don't see a viable replacement in terms of the quality of play. But you could go for depth. You could trust the draft, which the Cowboys have drafted extremely well. And the big thing that I believe the Cowboys are going to look at is that with the release of Tank Lawrence in June or after June 1st, they saved $19 million. That's a lot of money. $19 million against the cap. So will he end up being the cap casualty? More than likely he will. But it's going to be hard to replace in one player what he brings to the team. But with the draft and with free agency, it's very possible for us to get similar production across a couple of players if we handle this right. And hopefully, we get the health in those players being on the field. Hey, I would love to see him back. But based on how things are looking right now, I'm not sure if it's likely. Number 3, the most difficult, Amari Cooper. Now, Amari Cooper's name has been driven through the mud as of late about his productivity, and even with our own owner saying that they wanted more out of Amari Cooper. And I've been on record, and I will go on record again as saying that I don't think that Amari's production is really his fault. I think that he has had a lack of targets, a lack of opportunity, and he's had really some things just not play out in his favor. Yes, he's had some injuries, but Amari Cooper has played in 15 games. He played in 15 games, so it's not as if he was a guy that missed just an extreme amount of time. Right? So relatively, he's been really good. And so although the Cowboys can save quite a bit, off of the cap, I mean, they'll save about $16 million off of the salary cap by releasing Amari Cooper. Who in the world are you going to get to replace him? And that's my biggest issue. And please, don't say the draft, because most guys, unless they are upper end elite, those guys go in the top 10. The Jamar Chases, that generational talent, those type guys. The Justin Jeffersons, who also came out of LSU, that plays up in Minnesota. Those guys were high draft picks that came in and took the league by storm. Those are guys that are gone in the top 10. We're not picking in the top 10 unless, and this could happen, unless we give up picks and we trade way up to get into the top 10. Of course, which could happen. But as it is right now, we pick at 24. We're not there. So my contention is, yes, you can save $16 million against the cap. But how can you replace the value of an Amari Cooper in terms of his route running and his playmaking ability when you get him the ball? And this is what I'll point out again, because this is very, 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 very important. When you look at Amari Cooper and you look at his production versus other number one receivers and what he's done and what, some of us say that, hey, he hasn't done, he's not worth it, right? Well, you see that Amari Cooper, if you look statistically, and I'll show a chart and keep it up here actually, that he was targeted a grand total of about 103 times, okay? He was targeted 103 times. Now, People think that's a lot. Well, hindsight is 20/20 and beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And I'll say this, if you look at him versus your other top receivers that you would recognize as top receivers in the NFL, you'll have to begin to agree with the fact that really Amari Cooper didn't get targeted that much as it relates to how your typical number one receivers are targeted. So Amari Cooper was targeted 103 times, and he called for 865 yards. And so, that's that, right? So listen to this though. Let's go to the top of this chart, okay? And to the top of it, if you look at it, I'll start with the top three and you guys will see the difference. Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp was targeted 191 times, almost 100 more times than Amari Cooper. He played in 17 games, okay? He had almost 2,000 yards receiving, 1,947 yards. Justin Jefferson, all right, Justin Jefferson. And he was a guy that was targeted 167 times, almost 70 more times than Amari Cooper. He had 1,616 yards, okay? All right, Devontae Adams for Green Bay. He was targeted 169 times, and he called for 1,553 yards. And I'll just stop there. I can continue. I can go on this all day, but you can see a massive chasm gap versus the opportunities to make plays that those top three receiving receivers got versus your Amari Cooper, which is somewhere down here way near the bottom in terms of attempts. If you think about number one receivers and what they should actually demand or what they should actually get in terms of plays called their way and also opportunities to catch the football. And so he was the number 3 targeted receiver on the Dallas Cowboys, behind Schultz, who's going to get a big payday, and behind CeeDee Lamb, who fell off and didn't play quite as well to me at the end of the season. So if you take all those factors in, the system that the Cowboys ran sucked the life out of the effectiveness of Amari Cooper. He's still in his prime. He's still at the top of his game. He's still very, very good. He's still a top 5 receiver if you target and give him the football. And so I don't think you're going to find that in the draft. I don't think you're going to find that in free agency. So that will be the one guy, if there's any possible way to keep a guy, that will be the one guy that if I'm the GM, if I'm the front office, I want to keep that guy. I want to work it out. I want to figure out a way to get him involved adequately into this offense to maximize the production that we can get out of him. And by the way, the man gets open all the time. So if you like content like this and you want more videos, don't forget to hit the like and share button and subscribe, okay? Follow Boss Cowboy Sports on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And you can follow me, the OC100, on Twitter. Until next time, guys, see you.